Hey everybody, it's the OMAD Dad. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, a channel that's dedicated to living the OMAD lifestyle, or eating just one meal a day. Today, I want to talk about how to properly enjoy junk food while on your OMAD plan. Now, before I get into the bulk of my message today, I want to issue a little bit of a disclaimer because I know that I'm certainly going to get a lot of hate mail for putting a video like this on my channel. But when you hear me out, and if you make it through the entire video, hopefully, you'll see my point for making it. And my disclaimer is that in no way am I saying that you should or must incorporate junk food into your diet. Any sort of health plan that you're on is going to naturally help you gravitate towards more consistent healthy choices. And that's what you really should be seeking out. But to quote Jack Nicholson from the very first Batman movie, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. You know, it's very lofty for a person that's beginning a new diet plan to say something to the extent of, well, I'm never going to have sugar again, or I'm never going to have a carb again, or I'm never going to have meat again, or whatever it may be. It's a very lofty goal to say that. It's also, in many situations, in most cases, pretty much impossible. People will do that for a certain amount of time until they find themselves in a situation where that food is available in front of them and it's something that they really truly crave. Like, for example, you may say, I'm going to give up sugar. That is until you go over to mom's house and she's baked a fresh apple pie, and that happens to be your favorite dessert in the world. And then you try and remind yourself that you vowed to give up sugar, and that has sugar in it, so you're never going to eat that pie again and experience that. So one of the draws to OMAD is that you don't really have to uproot your entire life. You don't have to eliminate entire food groups. You don't have to give away all of your favorite foods to oblivion and never eat them again. You can enjoy them. But I'm advocating that you're going to have to do so while finding the middle ground. You're going to have to do so in a responsible way. And as I've said on this channel before, OMAD's about self-control. And so if you decide to have some junk food, that's totally fine. You have to remember that you're in control and you make the rules. And so I want to share with you some guidelines that I have written down and that I kind of go by. Whenever I get a craving for a particular type of junk food, or what we would consider to be junk food and not healthy. After all, life is a good balance. And then it's also going to address what many people are concerned with when they start OMAD, is that they're noticing that, at least at first, they seem to be wasting a good amount of food, which is natural because you're only eating once a day. You're not eating the 3 meals a day plus snacks plus that you were having before. So you don't consume as much, you don't get to use as much. So I'm also going to include a few smart shopping tips along the way to also help make this whole process a little bit easier. But first I want to take my first tip, which is you need to take the convenience out of the whole junk food buying process. Now you can see in the picture right here, this is junk food number one here. This is an American favorite, the Twinkie. Okay, Twinkie is junk. But when you talk about taking the convenience out of this, you'll find this item in many convenience stores. I mean, you'll find it in grocery stores too, and vending machines and whatnot. But you'll see this in convenience stores, and and many people, we call them convenience stores. Even though buying individual packs like this, when you really get down to it and think about it, really isn't all that convenient. Because if I walk into that store and I just buy this one package, this is going to last me on my for my one meal or whenever I decide to eat it. And that's going to be it. I'm going to have to go back into there, which is a little inconvenient, to go and buy some more. So what people do is they go to the store and they buy these big bulk boxes of them. And I'm telling you that that's the wrong way to do it. You want to take the convenience out of it. You want to make it inconvenient. I look to buy small, individualized packaged of things like this whenever I want any real commercial-made junk food. And there's a reason for that. Take a look at the total number of calories in here. There's 280 calories. Yes, that's a lot for very little substance. But if I bought the entire box, you'd probably be looking at over about 1,500 calories. I mean, I don't even know how many calories are in an entire box of Twinkies. But I don't have the convenience of having the larger box. I don't have that temptation of it being in my pantry. Every time I walk by it, I see them there. I have this one package that's going to be on my plate, and when that's gone, that is it. There are no more treats. So that's one thing I recommend to help take the convenience out of things, is going into a store, whether it's a gas station, whether it's a grocery store, wherever it is, and just going in and buy that one treat. Think of something you've really been craving, you really want, you've waited, you've held out. Just get one. Or another strategy, too, which wouldn't really be covered in this video, I do plan on making other videos about it, is if there's a certain junk food that you're craving, make it from scratch. There is nothing more inconvenient than making junk food from scratch. I listened to a doctor once who advised his patients to eat whatever kind of junk food that they want. It didn't matter what it was, cakes, pies, pastries, ice cream, whatever you want, go ahead and eat it. But the only stipulation was that you had to make it yourself from scratch. If you have to do that every time, whenever you want something that's considered junk food, I guarantee you that you'll eat a fraction of the junk food that you normally ever would. Now, I do, as I mentioned, I do intend to come out with a series where I show you how I make some of my favorite junk food, not so much just for the recipes themselves, but how I approach it and why I do it, et cetera, et cetera. But for now, point number one, take out the convenience. Don't buy these large boxes. My second point, make it plate friendly. Remember, most of us are having our OMAD on one plate, several smaller plates, but make that junk food plate friendly. And a good example of what I'm talking about is take ice cream. You know, you go and you buy ice cream, you're going to put a scoop of it on your plate, and you're going to have, say, maybe some rice, some beans, maybe you're having a little bit of grilled chicken or whatever. Obviously, that's not going to work because nobody wants to have their ice cream melt and kind of commingle with any of their savory food and whatnot, and nobody wants to eat their dessert first so that they can, in order for them to, finish their meal and not have anything wasted like that. So having treats like ice cream really don't quite make sense to put onto the plate, at least in my eyes. Now, the exception would be if you bought one of these, again, these smaller, individually portioned ice cream cups like you see here in the picture, these little friendly ones that have a couple hundred calories. You put that on the plate, it really won't commingle, it won't touch, and then by the time you finish with your other food, you should be good and ready to have, if this is something that you really, truly enjoy. But you do want to make this plate friendly. Here's another perfect example, cookies. Almost everybody loves cookies. I love them. It's especially a good chocolate chip cookie. I find that this brand here, if I'm not going to make them myself, this is a pretty tasty brand that I particularly like. And they are quite plate friendly. They kind of sit on the plate nicely. But buying a whole box of cookies is kind of to me a dumb idea, because again, you have all of that temptation. There's in a big bag, there's probably well over 1,000 calories. So get yourself some of these, one of these individual bags. This particular one here has a couple of cookies on there, which isn't going too crazy. 140 calories, that's manageable. It's not bad at all. This is a good case in point right here. If we're continuing to talk about cookies, these big boxes of Oreos, it's completely, in my eyes, dumb for me to buy a box this size, as I was just talking about, because as soon as I open it, I know the clock is ticking on their freshness, and you could see here, serving size is 2 cookies. And you know how large an Oreo is. These aren't oversized or double stuffed or anything like that. These are just 2 regular Oreo cookies, and they have 140 calories. And I mean, come on, folks, how many people just sit down and eat 2 cookies? So if you buy a smaller package of these, you're only going to be able to have so much. And that's the point. You're taking out the convenience, and you're putting something that's plate friendly on. My third point. Keep it a treat. You shouldn't be putting junk food like this on your plate every single day. I've done plenty of what I eat in a day videos on this channel to give you guys kind of an idea of what I eat. Many times you'll see on my plate a dessert. This is not something that I have every single day. I'm a little bit more lenient and relaxed with myself when I'm in my maintenance phase, because I'm well within the ranges of within my weight range of where I need to be. But when I'm back into a cutting phase, or when I was losing the initial weight that I lost on OMAD, it was a treat. It was a treat. So much is said about going low carb. I don't go low carb. I enjoy my carbs. I would say, if anything, instead of just trying to keep your carbs in check, go low sugar. Be mindful of your sugar. You should still be mindful of your carbs as well. And again, I have to say this because I have people that write me all of the time. If you can't handle carbs, if you can't handle the junk food, just because that's the way your system is, I'm not telling you that you need to go and start eating this stuff. But regardless, even if you can handle it pretty well, you need to keep it a treat. You shouldn't be having this sort of thing every single day. And the more junk food that you put on your plate, the harder it's going to be in between fasts. And why do that to yourself? So here's another good point right here. These individualized microwave cakes. Almost everybody has a microwave, or at least access to it. So even if you decided to have your OMAD meal at work, most offices and workspaces have a microwave for their employees if they have a break room. And, let's face it, if you're eating OMAD and you make a cake at home, unless you have a large family or you're going to bring it over to somebody's house, it's going to be sitting there and it's going to be getting staler by the day. And then every single day, in order for you to, quote unquote, get your money's worth and get your value out of it, you're going to be nipping away at that cake, when really all you wanted was just a one-time a little bit of a taste. So you may want to consider something like this, these individual mud cakes that everything is kind of mixed in there. You may just have to add a little bit of water or oil or eggs. I don't know. This is one that I don't particularly ever buy. But the great part is, again, you've taken the convenience out of the equation. You have this one individualized portion. It's 300 calories. You can work that into your meal, and then when you're done with that, you're done. You don't have any extra cake lingering around. My number 4 tip: try to have your junk food or your treats, whatever you want to call it. Try to have these only on your OPAD days. Many of us, even if we're in a maintenance phase, will have our OMAD and eat it all on one plate. Now, if you're eating like this every single day, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should have junk food every day. Again, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is on the days where you stick to usually having all of your food, it's able to fit on one plate. that would be a good time to have your junk food. And the reason I say this is because if you have several smaller plates that you're having your meal on, and then you decide to add another plate for, say, a junk food treat, it's very easy to start piling extra things on. And next thing you know, you end up several hundred calories over, maybe even more, for what you're allotted for the day of what you really should be around. So if I know that I only have so much real estate on my plate, my average size dinner plate, if I'm sticking to one plate for a meal that day, I know that if I take, say, one of these table talk pies at 300 calories, I'm not going to have a lot of room for too much else on there. But I'm going to have that. I've decided this. Maybe this is my favorite thing in the world. I don't know. But I'm going to make it work for me, and I'll have my regular savory meal as well. It'll stay on the plate, and when it's done, no, that's it. It's done. I'm not going to be worried about having another dessert the next day. I'm not going to be worried about putting some of this stuff on there. Just some things to consider. Tip number 5 is avoid large bags of junk food items. Prime example, these potato chips right here. Not pictured in this video series would be one of my, I guess you could call it arch nemesis, is popcorn. I love popcorn, nice buttery popcorn. But for some people, it's potato chips. Now me, I generally only like to have potato chips if I'm having a sandwich. But what I'll do is, instead of buying a large bag of chips, I'll go and buy one of these individual sized bags that you would find at the deli counter of most grocery stores. Convenience stores have this size as well, because I have enough chips for my one meal, and then I'm done. Because otherwise, I'm going to have a large bag. It's going to be open. As I've said before, they're going to start staling. They're going to just hang around. They're going to be tempting you. And, something like chips or popcorn are very, very easy to go overboard on and overdo it. Unless you're meticulously counting every single chip that you consume or weighing it, most people grossly underestimate how many chips and how many handfuls of popcorn they've really eaten and put on their plates. This also kind of ties into, having this stuff on days with when you're having an OPAD, 1 plate a day meal. You can, at least then you're kind of limiting the damage. If I'm having multiple plates, oh boy, you really can get things out of control. But avoid buying the large bags. Now, this is contrary to what most people have been brought up to know, because it's part of this poverty mindset. I shouldn't say everyone, but many people are brought up, with this underlying poverty mindset that we have to go out and get the best deal. Buying little bags like this, in financial terms, in the best deal, if that's what I'm looking for, I'm getting kind of ripped off in a certain sense, because I could buy a larger bag and get way more chips than I could for what I would pay for these little tiny bags for the equivalent. But there's no waste with this. When I'm done with this, that's it. I'm done. It's the bag is empty. I'm done. I'm not, trying every single day to use up these chips, and then they sit around for a week and a half, and you go to have them again, and now they're stale and disgusting, and you end up throwing away half the bag. So that's something to be careful of too. Is in the short term, you may spend a little bit more money on certain items, but in the long term, when you look at the big picture, you're not throwing things out. You're not wasting, and that's a big concern that I've heard from many people who've contacted me through this channel. They're worried about, wasting. They don't like throwing away food. I mean, hell, I'm the same way. I don't like throwing away food. So how do you avoid doing that? Well, don't buy more than what you're going to need. Buy the smaller portions. Simple as that. And my last tip today, the bottom line is that smart shopping equals less waste, as I've said in the last point above. Take for example these individual snack pouches of pistachios. It's plenty for what I would need if I was going to throw some on my plate. Have some nuts with my meal. 120 calories. I go and I buy a big bag. Now I've got to sit there and try and use them. Now, nuts, for example, they tend to last a little bit longer. But doing so and doing your shopping in this manner, you're going to slowly learn how to waste less food, and you're going to buy just enough to kind of get you through the meal. You're going to be fine, and you have the opportunity to keep going out and getting things that are fresh, as opposed to having things that just kind of hang around your pantry for years. I had my grandmother was infamous for that. I remember one time we were at a family picnic. This was probably back in 1997, 1998, and she made a salad to go with the meal we were having that night. I don't remember what it was, maybe barbecue chicken. Anyway, the point was she brought out a couple of different salad dressings that she kept up in the cupboard that nobody ever really had used, and she figured maybe somebody would like it that night. I grabbed one, and I happened to look at the expiration date, and it expired in 1985. We sometimes get the poverty mindset, this hoarding mentality, and we don't need to. And it's the same thing with junk food. We feel that we have to get the best deal. We feel that we're shopping smart by buying all of this stuff in big bulk quantities, and all it's doing is getting us used to buying more, and then we don't want to be wasteful. We don't mean to just throw things away, but it's something that happens because you just can't get to all of it unless you become this immense glutton, and you have to just eat it. So overall, this is how I approach having junk food. Now, none of this stuff that I've pictured here is homemade, obviously. Because if I went and showed some of many of the items that I would consider junk food that I like to make myself, this video would probably be over an hour long. But I hope these tips are helpful for you and give you something to think about. And please feel free to send me any comments or questions that you have after seeing this video. But the overall message here is that it's okay to occasionally give yourself a little treat. It's okay to enjoy life. It's okay to have the items that, even though through conventional wisdom would be considered junk food, it's okay to have these once in a while. But you have to understand that you have to be smart about it, and you have to remain in control. And so I hope that these tips are something that will help you make some smarter choices and to help you remain in control. And that's always going to be a great thing for an OMAD journey, or any health and wellness journey for that matter. So that is it for me for tonight, folks. I hope you guys are having a great day, a very great week, a happy OMAD, and of course, be well.